The Brush That Spoke. In a quiet corner of ancient Kyoto, where cherry blossoms fell like whispers and secrets hid in every shadow, a mute boy discovered a brush that didn't just write words. It wrote fate. In a small Kyoto calligraphy school, there lived a mute apprentice named Haru. Though he couldn't speak, his hands spoke for him, graceful, precise, full of longing. Every night, after the master and students left, Haru stayed behind, practicing in silence. One stormy evening, while cleaning an old cabinet, he found a strange, ancient brush wrapped in silk. Its bristles shimmered faintly, though the room was dark. Curious, he dipped it in ink and placed it on paper. To his shock, the brush moved on its own, writing flowing kanji characters. "The river that flows backward will drown its keeper." Haru froze. He didn't understand. But the next morning, the local ferryman, a cruel man who cheated villagers, drowned mysteriously when his boat capsized as the river inexplicably surged backward. Every night thereafter, Haru returned to the brush. It wrote riddles predicting fires, betrayals, even a forbidden love, and each one came true. But soon, the riddles began to speak of himself. The silent one will awaken the ink that bleeds. On the seventh night, the brush will claim its voice. On the seventh night, Haru unrolled fresh parchment and held the brush. This time, it didn't wait. It leapt from his hand, furiously scratching words. "Your voice was taken to seal me. Your silence feeds me. Tonight I speak, and you are silent no more." The brush glowed and Haru felt his throat burn. He screamed for the first time in his life, but it was not his voice that came out. It was a dark, guttural laugh, and the brush fell, lifeless, to the floor. On the paper, one final sentence appeared. "Ink and soul bound, one writes, one obeys." When the brush fell to the ground after it tore his voice away, Haru stood there, gasping. For the first time in his life, he could hear himself scream, laugh, and cry. His voice was sharp, but it wasn't natural. At first, he felt as if he had been freed. He wanted to run into the streets and shout, "I can speak, I can finally speak." But when he spoke other words, the voice didn't quite sound like his. Sometimes deep, sometimes strange, as if others were speaking through him. In the days that followed, he began to notice something else. Whenever he spoke, his words left a mark on reality. When he said, "I wish it would rain," it rained. When he said, "If only that man would fall," the man stumbled before him. His voice became both a weapon and a prison. And with every word he spoke, new ink lines appeared on his skin, coiling around him like a snake. He began to feel that the brush hadn't really left him, but had become a part of him. One night, he saw the brush in his dream, whispering to him, "You were silent because you were weak. Now you speak because you are mine." He woke up to find his hand had turned entirely black with ink, as though the brush had begun to devour him from the inside. In the end, Haru understood that his voice was no longer his own. But he didn't stop using it. He decided to write with his tongue the fate of the world as the brush pleased, until he found a way to free himself. Every evening, he stood by the riverbank, looking at the moon, and whispered, "Whoever hears me, save me before I am completely erased." But no one heard. Moral of the story: sometimes what we think is a blessing is a disguised curse, and what we gain without cost we later discover costs us, ourselves. Not every voice deserves to be heard, and sometimes silence is the true strength for words without wisdom can devour their speaker.